The United States is massive. It ranks third globally in both land area and population. Yet almost half the country remains practically untouched. In fact, more people live in New York City alone than in these next 9 states combined. So why do so few Americans settle in these wide-open, often stunning places? Let's find out. And hey, if this video hits 5,000 likes, we'll explore the largest, emptiest regions on Earth. Number 9. Maine. Way up in the northeast, Maine is basically Canada's next-door neighbor, in more ways than one. It shares the same rugged forests, glacier-fed lakes, and moose-filled backcountry. Yet, with just 1.38 million people, it's practically deserted by East Coast standards. Why? One word: winter. This map shows Maine's population spread, and you'll notice almost everyone clusters in the south near the coast, where winters are manageable and farmland is usable. The rest of the state? Think Game of Thrones levels of icy doom. With 89% of the land covered in forest and little industry, there's not much reason to stick around unless you enjoy snowmobiling across frozen lakes, every weekend, forever. Not surprisingly, Maine has the oldest average age of any state, 44.8, as young folks leave and only return when it's time to retire. Number 8. Montana. Montana is paradise for anyone who's ever wanted to be a cowboy. Massive plains in the east, towering mountains in the west, and yet, just 1.12 million people call it home. That's fewer people than live in San Jose, California. Despite being larger than Japan, Montana is actually the third most sparsely populated U.S. state. Why is that? Well, honestly, it's because modern Americans just don't dream of ranch life anymore. Millennials and Gen Z are out there chasing city lights and those 6-figure tech jobs, not exactly herding cattle or, enduring winters that break thermometers. Most towns in Montana are tiny and honestly super remote. So remote that getting to a Walmart can literally take hours. And if the wind chill doesn't scare you off, maybe those $500,000 log cabins will. Number 7. Rhode Island. Rhode Island and Montana have about the same population, but honestly, that's where the similarities end. One is colossal, mountainous, and well empty. The other is tiny, coastal, and full. Rhode Island is America's smallest state, just 1,034 square miles. So, it's no surprise that just over 1 million people live here. But get this, it's actually the second most densely populated state in the country. So, why are people leaving? The cost of living is sky high. Honestly, it's closer to New York than most other places in New England. And anything Rhode Island does well, another nearby state probably does better. Number 6. Delaware. Delaware's slightly larger than Rhode Island, but it's still smaller than Anchorage, Alaska. And like Rhode Island, Delaware has one main city, Wilmington, with just 70,000 residents. You'd think that being home to over 2 million corporations, Delaware would be an economic juggernaut. But here's the catch, those companies don't actually employ people here. Thanks to tax loopholes, they just register their headquarters in Delaware, then do all their hiring elsewhere. Plus, with Philadelphia just 30 miles away, Wilmington never had a chance to grow into a metropolis. Still, retirees love it, especially for the beaches and lack of sales tax. So Delaware's 1.02 million people include plenty of golden year transplants. Number 5. South Dakota. So what's South Dakota's claim to fame? Well, that would be Mount Rushmore. Or, if you've ever driven through the state, maybe, just maybe, it's the endless ads for wall drug. After hours of farmland, wall drug might honestly seem like a mirage in the middle of nowhere. But yeah, that's kind of South Dakota in a nutshell: miles of emptiness, freezing weather, and honestly not a whole lot else. Despite being nearly twice the size of Florida, it actually has fewer people than Jacksonville. The economy? It's still mostly based on farming and mining. And with fewer cities and less infrastructure than nearby states, South Dakota feels particularly empty, even compared to its Great Plains neighbors. Number 4, North Dakota. So take everything we just said about South Dakota, crank it up a notch, and, well, you've got North Dakota. Brutal winters? Check. Sweltering summers? Yep. Spring flooding? Absolutely. It's no wonder fewer than 780,000 people live here. Even with the oil boom, the jobs didn't attract enough long-term residents to justify major growth. It's far from other urban hubs, so supplies, healthcare, and services are harder to get. And during the homesteading era, many families skipped North Dakota entirely, opting for the more fertile, and slightly warmer, Canadian prairies just north. Winnipeg alone has more people than this entire state. Number 3, Alaska. Alaska is huge, the largest U.S. state by a mile. In fact, if you split it in two, each half would still be bigger than Texas. But with all that space comes isolation. Alaska has just 733,000 residents, spread thinly across a landmass that's bigger than Germany, France, and Spain combined. Most towns can't be reached by car. There are just 16,000 miles of roads, fewer than Connecticut. The state's brutal winters, remote lifestyle, and high cost of living drive most people away. Anchorage is the only true city. Remove it, and Alaska's population density drops to just half a person per square mile. That's 75% lower than Mongolia. Number 2, Vermont. Vermont is New England's scenic escape, filled with forests, maple syrup, and quaint towns. But with just 647,000 residents, it's also one of the least populated states. Why? It's largely rural, mountainous, and not exactly built for skyscrapers or sprawling suburbs. Only about 39% of Vermonters live in urban areas. Most homes are nestled between forests and farms, and that slow-paced lifestyle isn't for everyone. And yes, like many on this list, Vermont borders Canada. Cold winters, anyone? Still, since 2020, it's become the most moved-to state thanks to remote workers and retirees seeking peace, nature, and affordability. New Mexico. With just over 2 million residents, it sounds populated, but almost half live in Albuquerque. The rest of the state is nearly deserted desert. Idaho, a fast-growing state with nearly 2 million people, but still mostly forest and mountains. Outside Boise, it's wilderness. Nevada, 3.18 million people sounds like a lot. Until you realize 75% live in Las Vegas. Remove that, and Nevada's just desert, ghost towns, and, well, aliens. Number 1, Wyoming. No surprises here. Wyoming is America's least populated state, with just 581,000 people. Its jaw-dropping landscapes might be straight out of a Western film, but few people are moving in. There's barely any urban life, few services, and not much work unless it's government-funded. In fact, 1 in 4 workers is employed by the state or federal government. Still, if you're looking for peace, solitude, and wide-open skies, Wyoming is unmatched. So what do you think? Would you ever move to one of these empty states, or are you sticking to city life? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button if you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to subscribe for more eye-opening travel and geography content every week. And if this video hits 5,000 likes, we'll dive into the most uninhabited regions on Earth. From ghost towns in Siberia to entire islands with no residents. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.